She didn't hire a lawyer, she didn't contact a gossip blog, she didn't release a carefully written statement through a PR team.
That's it. You don't even get that title no more. You lost it. You're a sperm donor.
Instead, she did something far more explosive. She went live. And when she did, she said everything. NBA YoungBoy's baby mama sat in front of a camera and unleashed years of frustration in real time.
Mom stopped the car when you was 13 and turned around and spit on you. I probably would have did the same.
She named names, she showed evidence, she didn't hold back. And within minutes, the entire internet was watching. Now, millions of people are asking the same question. Did she just destroy NBA YoungBoy's career forever? Let's break down the bombshell. On March 2nd, 2026, a woman named Arcola, the mother of NBA YoungBoy's son Kale, went live on social media and revealed everything she claims she had been holding in for years. There was no PR strategy behind it, no lawyer sitting next to her, no carefully rehearsed talking points. She simply turned on her camera, looked directly into it, and began speaking with a level of raw emotion that instantly captured the internet's attention.
Fuck, bitch. You purposely burnt my baby.
By the time the live stream ended, millions of people had watched every second of it. And what she was saying wasn't just about a personal dispute. According to her, it exposed a pattern that many fans say they had already noticed, a pattern involving a marriage that people had quietly been questioning for months. And most importantly, it involved a little boy who allegedly came home from a visit with an injury that his mother refused to ignore. The person she placed at the center of the controversy? NBA YoungBoy's wife, Jalyn Michelle. And according to Arcola, the story behind that injury was not what it seemed. But before we dive into exactly what Arcola said and why the internet reacted the way it did, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because if you jump into this situation without understanding the history behind these people, you'll miss the entire context. So let's start from the beginning. NBA YoungBoy, born Kentrell Deshawn Golden on October 20th, 1999 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is far from an average rapper.
Dog bite. I can pull up dog bite.
We're not talking about an artist who had one viral moment and disappeared. We're talking about one of the most dominant and controversial forces in modern hip-hop. As of early 2026, YoungBoy holds the record for the most Billboard 200 chart entries by any rapper in history, with 34 albums charting, a record that stood for years before he shattered it in less than a decade. He is also the most RIAA-certified rapper of all time, with more than 126 gold or higher certifications as a lead artist. Complex magazine once placed him on their cover and called him the best rapper alive for 2020.
Let's see what dog bites look like. That's not a dog bite. That is a
His Make America Slime Again tour grossed over $70 million across 42 shows, selling more than 550,000 tickets. And on YouTube, his presence is massive. His channel has surpassed 15 billion views, and for a long stretch, he was the most watched musician on the entire platform. This is not a fluke. This is not a one-hit wonder. This is a rap industry powerhouse. But for as dominant as his career has been, his personal life has always been just as headline-worthy. Because outside the studio, YoungBoy has been managing something most people struggle to even comprehend. He has 13 biological children with roughly 10 different women, with his first child arriving when he was only 16 years old. His oldest son, Caden, also known as Draco, was born in 2016 when YoungBoy himself was barely old enough to drive. And in late February 2026, just days before this controversy exploded, his wife, Jalyn Michelle, announced the birth of his 13th child. The timing could not have been more chaotic.
See the brown at the top? That is a burn. And let KL tell it.
Jalyn Michelle, who married YoungBoy in 2023, had often presented herself as the calm center of his turbulent world. While drama constantly surrounded the rapper, Jalyn maintained an image of quiet confidence. She stayed away from gossip blogs, she rarely engaged in public arguments, she focused on family posts, motherhood, and appearing unbothered by the chaos surrounding her husband. To many fans, she seemed like the ride-or-die wife who was above the drama. But according to Arcola, that image was not reality. And during that viral livestream, she set out to tear that reputation down piece by piece.
I hit in the eye, it was his his SPERM space DONOR. You're not a dad, you're just a sperm donor.
Arcola is widely described online as YoungBoy's seventh baby mama and the mother of his son Kale, born around 2020 or 2021. Unlike many figures in celebrity drama, Arcola had largely stayed out of the spotlight. She wasn't chasing interviews, she wasn't appearing on blogs, she wasn't building a public brand from the situation. By most accounts, she had been quietly raising her son largely on her own. But something happened. According to her, Kale returned home from a visit at YoungBoy and Jalyn's house with a mark on his finger, and the explanation she was given didn't make sense to her. She claims Jalyn told her it was a dog bite, but Arcola strongly disagreed. During the live stream, she held up her hands and demonstrated the shape of the injury, insisting it looked nothing like a dog bite. Then she took things even further. She began pulling up photos of real dog bites, holding them up next to images of her son's injury like she was presenting evidence in a courtroom.
You don't even get that title no more. You lost it. You're a sperm donor.
In that moment, her live stream turned into something that felt less like social media drama and more like a public trial.
And the internet immediately exploded. Comment sections filled with people analyzing the shape of the mark, the color of the skin, and the location of the injury. Within minutes, thousands of viewers had already made up their minds. But it's important to note something here. As of March 4, 2026, there are no confirmed police reports, no public CPS investigations, and no official verification of the claims Arcola made. Everything she said during that livestream remains her allegations, delivered during what appeared to be an extremely emotional moment.
Think she's superior, sitting in a house getting cheated on.
But what made the situation resonate so strongly online was the emotion behind it. Because beneath the accusations, there was something much deeper. She wasn't just talking about drama, she was talking about her son. At one point, she said that Kale still asks about his father. He still says he misses him. And that detail shifted the entire tone of the conversation. Because suddenly, this wasn't just celebrity gossip anymore. It was about a real child caught in the middle of a very public conflict.
To me about my kid. That's why them be your husband down.
And for Arcola, going live wasn't about clout. It was about being heard. She ended the live stream with a line that quickly went viral across social media. After laying out her accusations and announcing that she had filed for child support with a court date scheduled for June 26, 2026 at 8 a.m., she leaned back, looked at the camera, and said, "See you June 26th at 8 a.m. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk." And just like that, the internet had a new controversy to debate.
He's innocent. She still asks about your dirty.
That wasn't a threat. That was a calendar invite. When Arcola announced the court date, she wasn't speaking in hypotheticals. She made it clear that everything had already been filed, everything was already in motion, and the next chapter of this situation would play out inside a courtroom. But her accusations didn't stop with the injury. She went much further. According to Arcola, the issue wasn't just what happened during that visit. It was what she described as a pattern of absentee parenting.
Issue. Anyways, I'm done.
She called NBA YoungBoy a deadbeat father, claiming that he only shows up when cameras are around.
According to her, he appears for photos, short videos, and moments that make him look like a present father on social media. But when it comes to the everyday responsibilities, changing diapers, consistent care, and providing steady financial support, she claims he simply isn't there. And when she explained why she felt that way, she didn't sugarcoat it.
Feel very wrong about a lot of things. How many lives I actually am responsible for when it comes to my music.
He got a whole football team of kids, she said. And that comment instantly became one of the most quoted lines from the live stream. Because when you step back and look at the numbers, the situation becomes difficult to ignore. 13 children, 10 different mothers. Even if someone wanted to be the most involved parent possible, the reality of that situation creates an impossible equation. How much time can any one child realistically receive from a father who is also dealing with house arrest restrictions, federal cases, a global music career, touring schedules, and a marriage? The math simply doesn't add up.
People have gotten in the car or put this in their ears and actually when it hurts.
But anyone who knows the history surrounding YoungBoy knows one thing. Drama around him rarely stays contained between just two people. And sure enough, it didn't take long before someone else stepped into the conversation. The first person to add fuel to the fire was Yaya Mayweather. For those unfamiliar with the name, Yaya, whose real name is Iyanna Mayweather, is the daughter of boxing legend Floyd Mayweather and the mother of YoungBoy's son Kentrell Jr. And in the long, complicated story surrounding YoungBoy's relationships, Yaya is far from a background character. In fact, her involvement in this saga has already taken some very dark turns. On the night of April 3, 2020, at YoungBoy's home in Houston, Texas, a violent incident took place that shocked the internet.
Like, damn, I can't do it all in one day, but I promise to clean whatever I can clean. But it's going.
According to reports, Yaya stabbed LaPatra Jacobs, another one of YoungBoy's children's mothers, multiple times in the arm. The situation reportedly began when Yaya arrived at the house and discovered LaPatra there. What started as a verbal confrontation quickly escalated into physical violence. Yaya was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, a second-degree felony that carried a potential sentence of 2 to 20 years in prison. The case stretched on for years. Finally, in April 2022, she pleaded guilty and received 6 years of deferred adjudication probation. Then, in November 2025, she publicly apologized. In a social media post, she addressed her parents, addressed LaPatra Jacobs by name, and framed the entire incident as a lesson in growth and accountability. For a moment, it seemed like she was genuinely trying to move forward and leave the past behind. But when Arcola's accusations began circulating in March 2026, Yaya stepped back into the conversation. She didn't go live, she didn't scream or argue publicly. Instead, she moved more quietly, retweeting posts and subtly supporting messages that suggested Jalyn's perfect wife image might not be as accurate as people believed. The message wasn't loud, but it was clear, and coming from someone with such a long history in this situation, that quiet cosign carried a lot of weight. But the moment Yaya entered the conversation, the situation escalated even further. Jalyn's sister, Caliente, fired back almost immediately. She accused Yaya of being two-faced, claiming that while Yaya was publicly throwing shade online, she had also been sending private messages, apologizing and trying to keep peace behind the scenes. Screenshots started appearing, receipts began circulating, and suddenly the internet wasn't just following one conflict, there were multiple simultaneous battles unfolding online, each one adding new layers to the controversy surrounding Jalyn's reputation. And then, an older story resurfaced. In December 2024, an Instagram model known as 7TV had posted a storytime video claiming that she was flown out to YoungBoy's house in Utah in 2022 while he was already in a relationship with Jalyn. According to her story, she spent time with him there. At the time, the video circulated briefly and faded away. But once Arcola brought it up during her live stream, the clip suddenly started trending again. Arcola didn't just suggest that Jalyn had been cheated on. She suggested something more controversial. She claimed Jalyn knew, or at least had every reason to know. According to Arcola's narrative, Jalyn chose to stay anyway because the lifestyle, the marriage, and the financial security were worth more than confronting the truth. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, the narrative spread rapidly across social media, and for someone whose public image had always been built on appearing calm, composed, and above the drama, that kind of narrative can be extremely damaging. But the detail that arguably hurt YoungBoy's reputation the most came next. Reports began circulating online that during one of the arguments, YoungBoy allegedly said, "Forget his son," while arguing with Arcola. The exact wording and context remain unclear, but once that claim hit social media timelines, the reaction was immediate, because many fans who had defended him through years of controversy suddenly went silent. They had stood by him through shootings, legal battles, and countless public feuds, but the idea of dismissing a 5-year-old child crossed a line that many people struggled to defend. Shortly after the controversy exploded online, YoungBoy reportedly deactivated his Twitter account temporarily. Before that moment, he had been publicly defending Jalyn, telling critics to keep her name out of their mouths and describing her as the one person who had helped stabilize his life. But the combination of Arcola's livestream, Yaya's cosign, resurfaced cheating allegations, and the "forget his son" controversy created a wave that even his loyal fan base struggled to absorb. And to understand why the situation feels so explosive now, we have to go back to November 2022, because that's when the narrative about Jalyn being different from the other mothers really began, and the person who created that narrative was YoungBoy himself. In an emotional Instagram post around November 20th, 2022, he announced that he was cutting off contact with several of his children. He claimed their mothers were using the children as leverage to manipulate him and damage his reputation. He said those children would have to reach out to him themselves when they were older. But in that same message, he placed Jalyn above everyone else. He praised her loyalty. He said she was the only one keeping things real with him. For many of the other mothers, that post felt like a declaration of exactly where they stood in his world. And for Arcola, who would later find herself on a live stream in March 2026, comparing burn marks to dog bites, that moment may have been the beginning of the chain reaction that eventually exploded. Because the truth about NBA YoungBoy's story is that it never started in comfort. It started in struggle. He grew up in Baton Rouge, with a father serving a 55-year prison sentence before he was old enough to understand what prison meant. He was raised primarily by his grandmother, the person he later described as his protector, his comfort, and his everything. When she died of heart failure after one of his releases from juvenile detention, it deeply affected him. At just 4 years old, a wrestling accident broke his neck, forcing him to wear a halo brace that left permanent scars. He began rapping at 14 years old, recording with a cheap Walmart microphone because that was all he could afford. At 16, he was arrested for attempted first-degree murder related to a drive-by shooting. After taking a plea deal, he walked straight back into the studio. For him, that cycle of chaos in music became normal. By August 2017, he had signed a $2 million deal with Atlantic Records. By 19, he had become the most watched YouTube artist in the United States for 101 consecutive weeks. He made history by placing 3 #1 albums on the Billboard 200 within a single year. And in 2021, he recorded the album Sincerely Kentrell from jail, debuting at #1, something only Tupac and Lil Wayne had accomplished before him. Through all of that success, however, the controversies never stopped. Legal cases continued, relationship drama continued, headlines about baby mamas continued. Yet somehow, none of it slowed his career down. In May 2025, he even received a presidential pardon from Donald Trump related to his gun charges. And once he regained his freedom, the momentum returned instantly. The Make America Slime Again tour grossed $70 million, selling 555,000 tickets across 42 shows. His album Slime Cry, released in January 2026, debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200. A European tour is reportedly being planned. Several new projects are expected to drop in 2026. A concert documentary is in development, and his production company, 38 Films, is preparing new content. On paper, his career looks unstoppable. So the question becomes, where does Arcola's livestream fit into all of this? Is it just another controversy in a career built on controversy? Or could this be the moment where the narrative finally catches up with the empire? So where does all of this actually land?
Absolutely. Did she hit the one part of the story that has always been vulnerable? Without question. And when a crack like that gets exposed in front of the entire internet, with this many people involved, this much history behind it, and a court date already set, it rarely stays just a crack. It either gets patched up fast, or it spreads. And that is exactly why so many people will be watching what happens next. Because this isn't really about whether NBA YoungBoy can survive controversy. We already know he can. The real question is whether the version of himself he has been trying to present to the world can survive this one. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Did Arcola really expose the truth? Or is this just another chapter in YoungBoy's never-ending chaos? And if you want more breakdowns like this, click on the cards on screen right now for the next story.